What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the Let's Build the U.S.S. Voyager Season 1, Episode 37. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we've got about a 23-minute episode. We're going to be picking up right where we left off, working on the outline for our nacelles, or engines, however you want to refer to them. Now what you can see here is I have a row of half slabs that I did in the front. I'm about to show you guys what we're going to do here. So basically we're going to be adjusting our frame. Instead of using full blocks for the top and bottom of the frame, we're going to use half slabs. So we're going to hop over to the right engine and we're going to rework our template, and then we're going to do the same thing on the left side. You want to make sure to grab your half slabs, and this is going to be pretty easy. The first row, you're just going to go one out, one more with the cut line, and then we do a pattern of 2 on each side, and then go down with a cut, pattern of 2, and then down with a cut, pattern of 1. And then one more row of 1. So you should have something that looks just like that. And we're going to do this for the top and bottom, for the front, as well as the back. And then we're going to come over and we're going to do the left engine as well. The reason that we're shifting from full blocks to half slabs is because we're going to be utilizing the steeper, the more subtle cut line with the half slabs as opposed to the more steeper one with the full blocks. This is going to allow us to build out the front end of the engine just a little bit better. So that's really the main reason why we're making this change. This is why I always say it's so important sometimes. You got to throw something down and see how it looks. And then you kind of, it's in some ways, it's almost kind of like a chess game. And what I mean by that is you have to kind of plan ahead. So comparing that to what we're doing here is that we did our initial outline with the full blocks. And at that point, I kind of just thought about like, okay, how is this going to look going with the cut lines using a template of full blocks? And the more I thought about it, the more it just seemed like it was going to look too boxy and not have that shape that the engines should have on the front end of the engines on Voyager. Now that being said, because you guys know I'm my own worst critic when it comes to building, the one thing that I was not super set, or not set, but super happy with anyway with the engines, is that even when everything's said and done, I kind of feel like my engines are just a little bit too thick. But then again, I haven't had anybody say anything, so I might just be giving myself a little bit too much crap over that. I don't know. But that's just kind of something that I saw after I was done when I was like, I kind of want to make them a little bit smaller. But you don't want to make them too small either, so that could be something that we might address down the road. We might thin them up if we do a second season. I don't know. I'm just going to play that one by ear and see what happens. Anyway, we've got our new template in place, so what we're going to do now, we're going to get rid of these full concrete blocks because we don't need them anymore. And they're just honestly going to get in the way. So let's go ahead, we're going to go back and delete the access with the full concrete blocks, and then we'll be left with just the half slabs. But like even critiquing the engines, all things considered, the engines still don't look bad. Even though I think that they are a hair too big, I think that for what I was able to do, as far as the shape goes, I don't think that they look bad. I think that they actually came out pretty good. I think I can say that confidently about most of the stuff on the ship. Like I said, there's some little things here and there, like the overall top end of the saucer in the front. I didn't nail the shape of that 100%. Being honest, it's like 90 to 95%. And the same with the backbone of the neck. Not the full backbone, but just where the back end of the neck meets the saucer. The angle isn't perfect of it. It's a little bit fatter on the real Voyager. My version of it is just a little bit too streamlined. But I don't think it looks bad. I think, you know, really always the goal for me when I build something out is, does it look like the ship that I'm building? And if it does, I mean, some of those things, you know, we might need to go back and make some adjustments to, but it's all about, what it comes down to is that, is it worth the amount of work that you're going to put yourself through? So that's something that I think about quite a bit when I'm considering making additional modifications to the build. But man, that template, that doesn't look too bad. All right. So we've got that in place. So we're going to head over to the left engine and we're going to repeat the same process again. Now, I'm getting ready to skip past this, but just to recap, we are using the same template that we just did for the right side engine, and now we're applying it to the left side. So we're doing the front, top and bottom, and then the back, top and bottom. And then we're going to skip ahead to when that's been done, because we don't need to sit here through all this time building that out when we just did it. Okay, so now we've skipped a little bit forward to once we've completed that step, and now we're going to start working on the nose of the engines. Now, one step I did forget to mention. So before you go too far, well, actually before we go into the next thing, you're going to want to fill in the gaps on the top and bottom, just literally connecting this top row with the back row on the back end. And the same thing for the bottom. Don't worry about the sides here, and then the very back and the front, we'll do that later. You definitely want to fill in the top here and the bottom, going all the way back. And we're going to do that for both engines. Once you've done that, then go ahead and hit play, and then we'll pick up right where we are now. So now we're going to transition and start working on the template for the nose of the engines. And we're not doing anything super fancy here. We are going to use what we have and go with the cut line that has already been pre-established. What I think we're going to try to do first is going with a pattern of 3 and then transitioning down and seeing how that looks. Now, what we're probably going to end up doing here, rather than building out the full front end, I think in just a moment we're going to shift and just worry about the very middle of it, and then come back in the next episode or two and fill in the sides. That's honestly, I think, the smartest way to go about it at this point, because if we just focus on this middle cut line here and determining how many rows we're going to do, it's going to make it basically go a little bit faster to close in the sides. Is basically more or less what I'm getting at. And if you want to, after you've done this on the top and bottom row, remember one of our rules: if you've done something on one side, do it on the other. So before you get too far in the process, maybe you want to go over to the right side engine and repeat these same steps, so this way both of the engines match in the front. Now bear in mind, we are not messing with the back. What we're doing here is strictly for the front end of the nose only. And see, this is where I say that it might be a little bit smarter just to focus on the middle cut line. You see, I'm adjusting this from a pattern of 3 now to a pattern of 4, and it's just going to be easier to focus on the middle of it, because otherwise then we have to kind of keep going back and making adjustments. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do the same thing on the right side engine, but I'm going to go ahead and skip past that to where we've already completed that step, and then we're going to move on to the next one. Alright, so now we're going to come back and we're going to add one more cut line on the sides. We're going to go down one with a cut and do a row of 4 coming out. Same thing on the bottom row. Alright, that's looking pretty good. So we went down with a cut and we did a row of 2, and then we did another row of 2. And now we're on our third row of 2. You're going to see how that looks. That's looking pretty good. We can ride with that so far. The angle of it isn't looking too bad, but this is why I'm saying let's focus on the middle cut line, because we don't want to go through all that work blending in the sides and everything if we're going to end up making an adjustment to this middle part here, because this middle cut line is actually going to dictate how the sides are going to end up looking, believe it or not. So the most important thing that we can do right now is develop that shape for the middle of it, because again, this is the most important part of the engine. Oh, I need to do one more row. There we go. We have our 3 rows of 3. And I'm going to add another row. And I messed up. I need to actually fix that, because one of those is just a single. This is why it's very important. Pay attention to what you're doing. Even if you are paying attention, you could still make a mistake. So it's always definitely a good idea as you're going to go back and check your work. If you do make a mistake, look, it's not the end of the world. Everybody makes mistakes. It's going to happen. Don't beat yourself up over it. It is what it is. Just move past it and try to fix the mistake, and we'll move on to the next thing. That's not looking too bad. So far we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 rows of 2 going with the cut line, top and bottom. It's definitely, because if you look at the engines from a front view, it almost has like a V shape to it. Like if you turn a V sideways. So this is one of the things I talk about too, you know, when you're working with a ship or just any build in general, breaking down the build into shapes can be extremely helpful, because it can help you're identifying what that shape looks like, and it's going to make it easier to more or less build it out. So now we've completed that step on the right side. We're going to do the same thing, or excuse me, on the left side. We're going to do the same thing on the right side. And once we've completed that, then we are going to skip forward and move on to the next step. So basically what I want to try is 3 single rows going with a cut line and seeing how that arch looks. And I'm going to do it for the top and bottom of just the left side engine to see how it looks, and if I like it, then I'll do it to the right side engine. Because what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at my reference material and looking at the very front of the engine. It does kind of slope down a little bit right there in the front. That's, I mean, for a first attempt, that's actually not looking terrible. That doesn't look bad at all. The only downside to it really is going to be it kind of looks a little bit wonky, so I want to make a shift to it. Going with that first one going in, we're making that instead of one row, we're doing two. And now we're going to do the same thing to the top row. So we're just stretching it out. Alright, we're going to do the same thing to this side. So we're going to add another row, and then a new row. Do the same thing here. Another row coming out, and with a cut, another row coming out, and then a new row going with a cut line. So we essentially adjusted it from 3 singles to 2 and then 1. Because what that's going to do, it's going to create a front end face, more or less, for the engines. It's going to make that part there, it's more or less going to make kind of like a square in the very front. So I'm going to fill that in now to see how it looks. And we're just going to kind of let it marinate until we get into the next episode. But all things considered, it's not looking too bad. Not looking bad at all. I think that this will be a good point to stop on today's episode. I think we've got a decent amount done. We're not completely finished with our engines, but we are rocking and rolling on this thing. But regardless, if you have any questions regarding today's episode, be sure to drop a comment below. Definitely love hearing from everybody. Or if there's any builds that you want to see, you can definitely drop them in comments below, or join the Discord and go under the build suggestions tab. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for me today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in for today's episode. And if you can, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button and help me in supporting the channel. And if you can drop a comment below, all these things help the analytics on my channel to get more exposure. So just doing that alone is really, really helpful. So everybody that's taking the time to do that, y'all are awesome. And yeah, I just want to thank you all again for tuning in, and I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. And what did you make in Minecraft today? Post your pictures in Discord so we can all see them.